Hey everyone, this is Natalie with your pre show reminder that we have revamped our entire Patreon page for 2026. Now on Patreon, you can enjoy even more free content like our newsletter and some curated blog posts. If you follow the link in our show notes to sign up for our free tier, our Patreon will be working as our website, and in case anything goes weird with any of the other social media apps, it will also be the best way for you to connect with us from a social media mindset. For our paid tiers, you can look forward to even more blog posts written by me about the misogyny in real time I am experiencing, as well as ad free listening and bonus episodes that will report on misogyny within the world, within my own life, media that is confronting misogyny or, God forbid, perpetuating misogyny, and some advice that is better served behind a paywall because we all know how mouthy I can get. So please enjoy this episode, and then after the show, go check out all of the things that are posted on our Patreon. We have chats there where you can easily get a hold of me to do things like suggest episode topics or guests or introduce yourself and start to help me build a tolerator community. Love you all. Talk to you soon. Hey, tolerators, this is To All the Men I've Tolerated Before with Badly Katona, your weekly look at everyday misogyny. Today, our guest is Sara Caplan, who I was lucky enough to meet at her one-woman show, What is a Woman, at Gen Con. Sara is an improv comedian, trans woman, and a philosophy student who has spent her life thinking about the nature of womanhood. And I am so excited to talk to you today. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And just one tiny correction.
Oh no, what did I do?
You didn't do anything wrong. The full name of my one woman show is What is a Woman, a one woman parentheses show.
Well, that is not what they printed on my Gen Con event ticket. Now, is it?
No, they're a bunch, and that's misogyny.
And I will be calling them as I drink from my $27 Gen Con cup that I got pranked into buying. But okay, now that we have that out of the way and that we've officially said fuck you, Gen Con, and how we met, why don't you introduce yourself and give the listeners some background since you're a new friend to the show and how your show came to be?
Sure. Yeah. You hit all the major points. Let's see how that show came to be is I'm primarily an improviser. I'm in my comfort zone when nothing is planned and there is no script. And scripts actually scare me. I know for a lot of people, the idea of improv is what's frightening. But for me, scripts mean you can do something wrong. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So this show was my first foray into, it would be a lie to call it scripted because there is still no script, but into something with a more of a pre-planned structure and an overall thesis that I try to consistently make. And I am very lucky to be friends with this trans guy named Laser, who organized the Joy Who Lived Theater Festival, an independent trans theater festival here in Los Angeles, as counter programming to our prestige theater space putting up Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. And so Laser and his friend Petey Gibson and his partner Maddox organized this festival, and Laser reached out to me and said, "Do you want to be part of it?" And I said, "Of course I do." And I pitched the name of the show as a joke first before I knew what it would be. And then I had like 4 months to figure out what the show was. And it was a really rewarding process. It was super fun actually, and for me it meant a return to my academic roots, which in undergrad were in philosophy that I'd kind of stopped thinking about for a decade because philosophy is bad for you and it's a poison for the brain. But this was a fun way to return to it. And I'm actually next week starting a master's program in philosophy as a result of doing the research for this show. I was inspired to go back to school.
I didn't know that that was the connection. I knew that you were pursuing a master's because I follow you on socials and I know things now, but I didn't know that that was the connection, that it all comes back to the one woman show. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's twofold. It was the one woman show, and also I got cut from my Herald team, which is a kind of improv team at the Upright Citizens Brigade here in LA. And I panicked because I'd been putting off having any sort of reasonable plan for even the near future. And I got cut. I got cut from my improv team, and I submitted my application that night because I just picked something else.
I love that. I I am a fairly new. I used to do improv in high school at a Cold
Amazing.
Stone Creamery lobby.
Where'd you grow up?
Northwest Indiana, so right across the lake from Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah, you
Great
can
place
stand
to
up.
grow up for improv.
Oh, yeah. And it was my crush from speech and debate was like, what if we did improv? I've watched Who's Line, and with all the confidence of a white man, he was like, we can do this. And I was like, I'll do anything, including be at a Cold Stone on Tuesday nights.
I'm sure the poor families trying to get ice cream after soccer practice were thrilled.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then we'd have to stop whatever bullshit we were doing so they could sing for their tips.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So it was just a really winning combination. But I'm bad at scripted stuff too. It's why I've always wanted to be a talk show host and then eventually just went, oh, you can do that on your own now because of the internet. You don't have to wait for ABC to ask you to be a talk show host. And but I'm so bad at scripted stuff, especially in speech and debate. But I tried to do a scripted version of this show that mirrored late night television called The Misogyny Meltdown. And I liked my monologue. I could not deliver it. And I was like, well, maybe if I start improv classes again, I'll get better at performing.
It's just a completely different kind of performance. Like when I was first planning for the my solo show, I felt like I had to script it. Like that felt like what you're supposed to do. And I had to with the guidance of my metamor, who's a very talented like sketch comedy director, I needed them to give me permission to be like, well, you don't have to like it doesn't have to be scripted if you know what you're gonna say loosely. And that made my life so much better.
Yeah. I actually really appreciate that advice because I'm in a year-long writing program and I've been doing the screenwriting route of this program plus also trying to sneak in writing stand-up comedy bits to again try to be better at performing.
Yeah.
And I was just like for this podcast I just write down a loose outline and then I don't look at it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I was like, well that's how I'll do stand up. And then I realized no, that's how you get up on stage with all the confidence of a white man and you bomb. Like,
It depends.
yeah.
Some people, that is how they do stand up.
I mean,
And some people have it like scientifically analyzed and practiced down to the exact number of milliseconds they pause to take a breath. Like everyone is different.
that makes me feel so much better. I'm sorry you got cut from your Herald team, and I'm sorry if that caused pain and strife with you and UCB. Oopsie.
No, no, it is so totally fine.
Well, so how did the show come to Gen Con?
The show came to Gen Con because I was already going to Gen Con with my improv team, Chill Touch, that plays there. And so basically, after I did the show the first time, I posted a clip from it, which some of your listeners might have seen, which is me asking the audience which objects are chairs and which are not chairs. And I posted that video on Instagram and it exploded in a way I never could have predicted because I had 1,100 followers when I posted the video. And that was the beginning of April. And like as of the start of August, I had like 45,000 followers. And I can still look at the analytics on Instagram and see that something like 90 something percent of all of those followers came from that one video. And I don't know what it is. Something about it hit the algorithm in the right way. And uh, that was very weird and cool and exciting. And in a fit of optimism, I was like, maybe I'll bring this show to Gen Con. And so I reached out to Laser, who used to do shows at Gen Con and knows people there. And it was already after the show submission window had closed. And Laser just emailed someone and was like, can she do this show? And I guess if you know the right people, you can get away with that. And yeah,
I'm convinced that they're always so I build out my Gen Con schedule months ahead of time because I want to see certain people at certain times and whatnot. And then I'll wake up Saturday and there will be something that I can't fit into my schedule that I'm like, I really want to see this though. And it's because they added it the night before.
yeah.
Yeah. Happens
So
every year.
it was pretty random. It's, I mean, it's a weird fit for the con. Like, well, my initial hope was to do it offsite just while I was in Indianapolis. I was like, well, as an experiment, what happens if I try to do this in a different city? And it's just really hard to book it offsite space and it costs money. And if you do a show through Gen Con, it's free. And so it's kind of risk free for me, which is great because only 20 people showed up. And that's actually that's fine. Like, since I didn't have to pay to rent a theater space or anything, and I don't know why Gen Con put me in the giant great train hall. I think it's because it was scheduled so late. Just all the reasonable spaces were taken. Uh, but I like just sitting and having more of a perf performance conversation with a small audience like that.
Yeah. I so okay about the what is a chair, what is a chair game. Right before I had gone to your show, a couple of days beforehand, one of my writing teachers had posed a question because she's also working on a screenplay around this idea. And she was like, could everyone give me their definition of love? And I panicked because I'm like, no,
Yeah,
you can't
that's so
define
hard.
love. And then we get to what is a chair, and I was like, "Well, I can define a chair. You know, you have to sit on it, and it has, like, 4 legs, and that's definitely a bench, which is a category of seated furniture, but not a chair." And then I got, actually level pedantric? No,
Pedantic.
pedantic about it, and no, it's a fun little exercise.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not actually level pedantic in the right context. That's the point for me is that is what philosophy is. Like my advisor in undergrad always started every one of her intro classes by telling the students that philosophy is thinking in slow motion and it's where you take seriously all those little questions that other disciplines need to ignore if they're going to be able to do anything. And if you're trying to do a physics problem and you stop the professor and you're like, well, you're asking me to calculate the moment of inertia of a chair, but I'm not quite sure what a chair is, then yeah, you'll get kicked out of the classroom. But if you're doing that in a philosophy class, they're like, good point. We actually do need to investigate that before we can make any points involving the idea of chair. And it's important for some people to do that because otherwise stuff gets slipped in to common sense or to like common belief systems that haven't actually been considered.
Yeah. I would love to revisit my philosophy brain. I took exactly one philosophy class in college, and it was on accident. It was listed as a literature class,
Mm.
and it was with a professor that I liked. And I remember and I don't know if it's the Capricorn in me or like my defiant daddy issues or all of it, but like if you question me possibly 4 times on the same thing, now I'm annoyed. And so he had pushed me to that point, and I looked at him and I went, "Hey, you listed this class as a literature class, and I read the book. I'm not, I'm not, I can't help it that you also are double dipping with philosophy." And he's like, "Okay." I was like, "I'm just here for my English credit."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that is sort of how a healthy brain responds to philosophy.
Oh, that's not where I thought that would go.
No, like I think philosophy is important. It's I wrote an essay about this a few months ago, but the way I see it is philosophy is bad for you. It like is maladaptive. It makes you distracted by things that prevent you from interacting with the real world and like caring about stuff that matters and moving forward because you are so stuck on things like, but what is a chair though? What is blue? Like, what if the color blue I see is different from the color blue you see? That other people are capable of entertaining and seeing. Like, I think a healthy human, a healthy, smart human can understand why that question is interesting, but then has very strong mental safety nets that prevent them from considering it for too long, which is, as you described in your case, getting annoyed. And I tend to think like the image I always have of it is as humans, our existential position is that we live on a castle in the clouds, impossibly floating above the endless void. And someone whose brain is like philosophically inclined, uh, they have like a rope maybe that's tied around their waist and they jump down into the void and they get stuck there looking at questions that they can't resolve. And in order to get back to the castle, that takes a lot of work to like ignore all that stuff and climb back up the rope. Whereas a healthy human brain, it's more like a bungee cord. Like you can jump down, you can see the void, and then your brain is going to bounce you right back up to the shit that like impacts your daily life more directly. And yeah.
No, that's a good visual. Uh, okay, can I relate your show to gaming for a second? Because
Oh, please.
okay, you did do a metaphor that I thought would be particularly helpful when talking to people. Because the reason why I love that you did this show in Indiana is because I am constantly, but so I am usually met with people in the Midwest or family members or friends of family members with people who do not have queer people, trans people, people of color, anyone who doesn't look or act like them in their like initial friend group. And you said something about how people trans people break the gaming rules in people's heads. Could you go into a little bit so I don't butcher your point there?
Yeah. So my uh, the whole point of the show for listeners for me is trying to think about specifically like I was basically tired of asking my cis friends and family like why do they keep attacking trans people? Why does the right keep attacking us like this? And the answer I was given was, well, you're being used as a scapegoat. And it was like, obviously we're being used as a scapegoat, but why us? There's so many groups they could have picked, and they have picked a bunch of them, but why are we such a primary one? And so the show is my attempt to sort of think through and figure out what is it about transness and about the nature of gender at a social level that makes cis people so inclined to be so uncomfortable with us and thus like be attracted to systems of thought or propaganda that alleviate that discomfort. And my sort of explanation I come to in the show, and I'm still developing outside of it, but gender, if you think of gender as a big, elaborate social game system, which I would argue it is, Um, there's all these rules, like no matter how, whether or not you even believe in trans people or you think we're mentally insane, like it's obviously the case that even if man and woman track on to something real and immutable, the way that man and womanhood are lived out in our society is still done along all of these kind of arbitrary social rules. So in our society, men behave this way and women behave this way. And in medieval Japan, those rules would have been very different. Men have long hair and they wear long robes and they practice the sword or they master a craft. And in our society, men wear suits and have short hair and they get really good at day trading crypto. So, like, whatever those rules happen to be in your social context, we learn them and we perform them. And that is a big part of how we come to understand our position in society. It's how we come to understand ourselves. I'm a man, men do this, and so I do this. I'm a woman, women do this, so I do this. And trans people are basically like this immersion breaking phenomenon that comes to the people who are very happily and fully immersed in playing man or woman in their social context. And this trans person comes up, and without, like, we don't even have to go so far as to say you're doing anything wrong. Just by existing and like by living out the idea that you can change your role in this societal game, what we do, I think, is we force those cis people to recognize gender, man, woman, all these things they're doing. They're forced to confront the fact that, oh, wait, this is a game. This isn't just reality that men do this and women do this. Like I'm abiding by this social rule system rather than natural law. And I I think people get so much it's so complicated, obviously. Like you have a whole podcast about gender, but I think people have so much tied up in how they understand themselves and how they understand themselves relative to society and the people around them. So much is rooted in all these assumptions about the nature of gender, the nature of what men and women are, that when trans people come up and say, well, those things are a lot more arbitrary than you realize, that could have been otherwise, that that is a like I think that can be an extremely stressful experience. Like if we go back to the
Yeah.
castle in a cloud over the void idea of what philosophy is from before, like gender plays a similar space. Gender is part of that cloud that people are walking around on. And trans people, by our nature, are walking around and being like, hey, you see that void? And
Do you
people
see it
hate
though?
that.
Yeah.
Like they hate it. I think and I don't think this is like conscious in the idea
Mm-hmm.
of your basic transphobe, but I think you look at the way they talk about us, like trans people are the downfall of society. People are going to be so confused. You're going to whatever. Like I think we are just a walking, talking existential crisis trigger for these people who either aren't equipped or aren't willing to confront like the unfortunately unstable and uncomfortable existential position that we find ourselves in as humans.
Yeah, because I think what it hit for me as I was re-listening to it and as I listened to it at Gen Con is society does a really great job of making us feel very secure in our gender role while also making sure that we're insecure the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in this I didn't get into it in this part of the show, but so much uh, I think there's all these different psychologies of transphobia. Like people come at it from all these different ways, but 100%, like if you look at the manosphere as a phenomenon, it is rooted on a generalized insecurity among these guys of like, oh, I need to learn how to better perform man. I am not being man good enough. And then you have these guys who are like aesthetically aligned with the masculine norm saying, oh, well, it's easy. You want to be more man, like never listen to your girlfriend. You want to be more man, you got to work out every day. Like they just give you easy things to do for you to say, like, okay, I just have to do that and then I'll be man.
Because when I'm confronted with transphobia or truly any, I'm a cis woman who was lucky enough to move out of her hometown and experience diversity and then came back to her hometown to be like, hey, diversity is a thing. And I'm in a lot of conversations with the people a lot of time that make my eye twitch. And I find a lot of ego in it. Like, well, but I learned in third grade that men do this and women do this. And you're trying to tell me that my third grade science background is in fact false. But my third grade teacher was a nice lady. And honestly, it boils down to that sometimes.
Yeah, I think in general, and I don't know how much this is just like a human species level problem or it has something to do with modern culture or our modern cultures. People are extremely uncomfortable being uncertain. They want to, we want to know things. We want, like, we get annoyed, right? When our literature professor starts pushing us on philosophy questions that we don't have answers to. And it's annoying to not be able to answer it. And we either want to just pick an answer and go with it, or we want to pretend the question doesn't matter. And we want to say, well, that's just actuallys, right? And I think we all do that. And I, I yeah, and I'd imagine us, like, I didn't grow up religious. I'd imagine if you're coming out of a religious context where things are presented as being certain, rigid, clear, founded on this strong basis, that that's really hard to move away from. I think that's like so nice and soothing that it becomes addictive, probably. And yeah, people don't want to have to question the systems that they use to find comfort in an uncertain and terrifying world.
Well, and people don't want to be the first person to take the step out of the norm, where it's like, I was one of the first people in my family to step out and be like, hey, there are all of these different experiences that we never experience as privileged white cis people. And you do face a lot of backlash in your church community or your family community or your conservative community. And it honestly, and I also had to grapple with this, it gave me a lot of empathy back towards the people I've had to have these terrible conversations with because I was like, oh, okay, you're having a fear response.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just confusing. I mean, I didn't know what trans people were when I graduated high school. And the first time I encountered a non-binary person in college, I 100% had this gut reaction of like, okay, well, they're lying. They're doing this for attention. They're being dramatic. This doesn't make sense. And because I didn't understand it, and I still don't know what that person's experience was, and I think it, I don't know how I would have continued to feel about it if I weren't myself trans and like had this, because I'm otherwise also a privileged white person.
Hmm.
Um, so I can 100% understand like the temptation to dismiss that I think people have. And if I didn't have this part of myself and my own experience that forced me to grapple with the fact that, like, okay, sometimes we are different from what we're told is the norm, and sometimes we are different from what people expect. And I can see all these people who I think are good, nice, thoughtful, smart people failing to listen to and accept me and what I'm trying to tell them about my experience. And then that, like, kind of, unless you want to be a blatant hypocrite, like that forces you to consider, okay, so what are all the experiences I don't have that I haven't been open to hearing thus far? And that unfortunately took, for me, it did take, like, I had this personal experience of it, and that taught me to look for it in others. I wish I'd been more just naturally like the perfect empathetic ally.
No, that was never me either, except for maybe that one day where I was like, shit, do I have to forgive my dad a little? I don't want to. I don't want to. But I
Yeah.
might have to because it's a fear response. But I also haven't, because I also told you this will help me win a lot of fights at Thanksgiving. But then I sat with it and I was like, well, telling people that they're having a fear response is also something that elicits anger and denial in people. If you're going, hey, you're just acting from a place that doesn't understand this. So your body is kicking in the fear drive. That also makes people upset.
Yeah. And if you figure out how to consistently talk to someone who starts from that position and get them to a place of open-minded learning, please let me know.
I will. I will let everyone know. That will be
Yeah,
me becoming TikTok famous. Is it
that
be
would be
like
you
I
saving
cracked
the
it?
world.
Yeah. No, because I think about all of the so my parallel to this is when I was in high school, women who experimented physically or sexually with other women, I was like attention seeking hoes who are just doing tricks at parties. And then I became a woman in her early 30s that was talking to a friend about our Catholic upbringing on a hot microphone on her podcast. And the friend had to stop me mid sentence and go, Natalie, you're saying that you're attracted to women, but God told you not to be. And I was like, oh,
Hmm.
I go, I'm straight because God and my dad told me I had to be. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, ooh. And now I'm a woman in her mid 30s who luckily her family never has to confront this truth about her because I'm always so single. But but I have to constantly remind my mom, Mom, I told you in Aunt Melissa's basement, like I held both of your hands and I was like, I'm going to date women now. And you pretended to be okay with it. Like I just remember. Like, and she's like, no. And my husband doesn't remember this either. And he goes, and I go, because he wasn't in the basement. It was you and my favorite aunt. And we were having a conversation about why I brought my friend Annie to dad's wedding. And I was like, well, Annie's my great friend and she's probably my soul life partner. But also, I'm going to start actively dating women. I only prefer the company of women, it turns out. And you guys were like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's that's good. I mean, I'm happy for you
thank
that
you.
your friend pointed that out on a hot mic,
Yeah.
but sometimes that's the only way.
I mean, and again, I was always dating from either a performance because someone asked me like, well, what do you think authentic dating is to you? And I go, I don't know because I've always been performing what I thought my mother, who grew up very hot, would want me to be experiencing while I'm dating. It's like, well, I got to be a hot girl because mom was hot. So this is what that looks like,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah. So do you, in retrospect, do you think you were never actually attracted to men?
It's hard because Pedro Pascal exists and
Hmm.
Papa Pascal exists. Also, I am a One Tree Hill fan. I don't know if you had a teen soap opera of choice, but Chad Michael
No.
Murray's was mine. And
Okay.
I went and saw one of the musical artists that came out of One Tree Hill at a show on last weekend. And he was so charming and funny that I was like, I would spend time with him at a
Yeah.
dinner. So I think it's more of a pansexuality, bisexuality. I don't think I think out of the men that I've dated, I probably really, really had affection for one.
No.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Isn't that sad?
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I'm sure if you're one of those guys listening, you were the one, buddy.
it's you, buddy. I promise. I promise. You're not blocked from my DMs. It's fine. Like,
Yeah.
no, yeah. And I mean, I had fun while I was dating and doing all that jazz or whatever. Um, but when it comes down to like, again, what is the definition of sexuality? What is the definition of gender? What is the definition of love? I'm constantly going, fuck, I don't know.
Yeah, asking someone to define love is kind of crazy to me. I mean, asking someone to define any emotion,
Yeah,
like, yeah, can you even define anger?
yeah, no.
And it's like, well, there's a million different kinds.
Yeah,
And it's like a visceral, direct experience that I can't put into words because it's not a concept.
yeah. Well, and gender expression wise, too, because I was always performing heterosexuality, like, it's the whole my legs are always shaved because you never know when opportunity is going to strike, I guess. And makeup is always on to go to the grocery store, and it's exhausting. These rule
Hmm.
and we talk about it a lot on the show, how like the rules of gender norms are also there to exhaust us to the point where we're not thinking beyond them.
Yeah, I think a lot of specifically those like the norms of femininity, especially the ones that started evolving in the kind of 50s housewife culture. Because, like, you're most women in the 1800s, sure, maybe if you find yourself at Versailles or something, you're
Yeah,
constantly performing in that way. But most women in the 1800s were working.
yeah,
Pre-industrialization, for sure. Like, you're in your home, you're helping with the farm, you're cooking, you're you and your husband are both alternating between like darning all of the clothes and collecting firewood, whatever. Like, no one gives a shit if your legs are shaved or you're wearing like makeup would be this frivolity for the vast majority of people, or you do it for fun if you want to.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, all those norms that started evolving. And then unfortunately you have to start talking about capitalism and the
Uh,
ways that like women were turned into a consumer class and femininity became a commodity that you had to purchase and keep up with. And yeah,
yeah.
it's a bummer. I mean, I like having smooth legs personally because I think they feel sleek and fun, but that's why I had my legs repeatedly shot with lasers because I don't want to shave them.
Oh my gosh, good on you.
Oh, it's fantastic. Look, if you prefer the feeling of having clean legs, which is me, I hate the feeling of leg hair on sheets, for
Yeah,
instance. Uh, Laser hair removal is amazing.
yeah. Uh, no, good on you. I would love to have so before I was a podcaster and a broke writer, I was a broke educator and I
Mm,
taught in Catholic schools. So
hmm.
disposable income for lasers to be shot at me has never been a thing,
Yeah,
but
no,
would
it's
love.
it's it is a privileged thing to be able to do for sure.
Um, but yeah, and then you mentioned the second enemy of this podcast, which is capitalism, because the thing about misogyny, racism, homophobia, and transphobia and capitalism is they're all best friends.
Yeah, yeah, capitalism isn't like the cause of those things, but it's certainly like some.
Yeah. Well, and it's certainly like ran by them.
Yeah, it changed them. It
Yeah.
it took them and distorted them and reapplied them to the world for its own use.
Yeah. For sure. And yeah, and again, the philosophy metaphor, because I experienced this, it's like you dip your toe in and you're like, I think misogyny is bad. And then before you know it, you're like at the bottom of an 8-foot pool trying to like gather pennies because you're like, oh, it's all bad.
Yeah, it turns out everything is actually pretty bad.
It's all bad. In August of 2025, yeah. it
Like it
might.
didn't it's so frustrating because it did not have to be. Like that and that's part of the game thing. Like everything about the way our world works right now where is the result of these human decisions. Like no one sat down and designed how capitalism would look in 2025, but it is the end result of choices humans continued making and a limited, like a very tiny number of humans, and then like imposed it on the rest of us. And yeah, I really, really hate it.
I hate it so much. And okay, can I tell you about a horrific conversation that I had at Gen Con?
Yes,
So I don't know if you're plugged in to Critical Role, but they
not at
were
all.
okay. Well, they were doing a lot of Dagger Heart stuff. And again, this isn't a D&D podcast, and I make my listeners listen to my D&D and drop out TV bullshit all the time. And they're like, yeah, Natalie, we know the dungeons and the dice. But they were they were doing a lot to promote their new TTRPG system, Dagger Heart. And in the car, on the way back to my Airbnb, so I could go to the Critical Role live show, someone asked me, Natalie, why is everyone so mad at Wizards of the Coast? And I'm not an expert in this at all. There are way better TikToks that I could have just sent that person than try to give the timeline to why people are so mad about Wizards of the Coast. And I was like, well, I go, it kind of all started um, with, inherent racism and bias against women and Jewish people and people of color with the drow and goblins and different strength modifiers for women and stuff like that. I go, and then it kind of morphed into capitalism where they were going to take money away from tiny streamers just trying to pay their rent because Critical Role was popular and making money. So they were like, oh, then we should be making money too. And we'll just charge licensing fees. I go, and then AI art was another one. I go, it was just like all of these little things of not understanding how your fan base had evolved past the people who were running your company. And I was told, well, none of that should matter because it's fantasy. Dragons aren't real. So there can't be inherent bias when it comes to elves. And I
Hmm.
went, oh, okay. And I was like, but there is, and we now have an entire career dedicated where people go in and tell you where the inherent bias is in whatever it is you're doing. They're diversity consultants. And they were like, mm-mm, because when I'm playing, I'm not thinking about racial tensions, so it's not real. And I was like, okay. And then I just jump into the void at that point. That's when I actually leap away from the castle to be like, I'll just live here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm really happy for that person. I bet they're happier than I am.
honestly.
But yeah, no, I mean that's pretty stupid. If you're listening, I don't know who you are. If you're listening, no offense to you, that is pretty stupid. So
And again,
if
it's that fear response that, like, well, somehow I got tricked into doing something wrong and I don't believe I'm a bad person. And it's like, okay,
well, and I think it's also that immediate jump to if I recognize that like the way I was playing the half orcs in the campaign I was running, now that I think about it, is probably racist. Like I don't I'm realizing I was leaning on a lot of tropes about POC to play those characters, and that's bad. I should reconsider that. I think people fear that if they acknowledge that, then that does mean I'm a bad person. And so they know, well, I'm not a bad person. So ergo, this thing is false. But it's that's not actually how it works. Like it doesn't mean you're a bad person if if you're relying on sexist or racist tropes in your game unconsciously. It means you are a part of a misogynist and racist culture, and all of the tropes you fall back on when you play your story fantasy game are going to be infused with those ideas. And if you aren't like actively trying to root them out, of course it will slip into your gameplay. That doesn't make you good or bad. It's not about being a good or bad person.
Well,
It's yeah.
and when it comes to the am I a good person or am I a bad person, it's like, do you watch Black Mirror?
Yeah, I do.
Do you remember the Bryce Dallas Howard episode where you got likes in real time and they came across your forehead or whatever and you got like social
Yes.
points and consequences? It I don't think people realize how much that episode might actually be the best reflection of what we have going currently on with online culture and stuff like that, where everyone is like, well, I can't be caught being bad. I'm going to have to write a notes app apology. And those get made fun of all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to me, I think on both sides of that equation, it's this very Christian idea of like there's good people and bad people, and people, and everything ties together, of course, but there's good people and bad people, and in order to avoid having to confront the complexity of life as a imperfect social being with imperfect information, like I need to divide the world into good people and bad people. I need to be a good people, and which, uh, yeah, it's both sides. People are terrified of being the bad people, and then also people are like unfortunately always trying to divide the world into good people and bad people, and they see it as this binary thing. Um, you
Well,
know,
and I especially see it in my more, you know, conservative people who are in my purview, where it's like there's such an anxiety about like being wrong or doing something wrong or saying something wrong. And it's as silly as, so I had to leave my cat for Gen Con. She couldn't come. She refuses to be in a
the
cat
shame.
backpack or stroller. No, it's her fault. She has too
Yeah,
much pride. And I told her I'd be a lady who put her in a purse, but she doesn't like it. um, and the person who was taking care of her, it was the first time he was taking care of her. And I had like, so we're both medicated. We both have depression and anxiety. We're both medicated queens. I had cut up all of her little pills, put them in the thing, told hey, you crush it up, you mix it into her food, you go about your day. I didn't tell them she's also a grazer. Like, she's not going to take that pill right away. And she's actually going to fight you all day about it and make you feel bad for not giving her her dry food that she also doesn't want to eat. Like,
mm-mm.
mm-mm. She just wants it to be in her bowl to prove a point. So he got really nervous and like when I came home on Sunday, she was actually like locked into the bathroom, which is a new thing for her, and she was really pissed at me. And I was like, "Oh my god." I was like, "Did she have like one of her angry episodes? Like did she hiss? Did she attack someone? Was she like trying to get out the windows at birds or something?" Like the reason why she's medicated is because she's violent when she isn't. And I was trying to get information, and and I had to go through a second party to try and get my information. And I was like, "Hey, could you ask him how many pills she took today or like why she was in the bathroom or anything?" And immediately they were like, "He would have followed your instructions." And I was like, "Hey, again, I'm not crying. I'm not screaming. I just need to know if my cat starts foaming at the mouth, what happened when I wasn't here,
Yeah,
so I don't look like an idiot in front of the vet because she's already pretty judgy of me because I'm already anxious when I'm there and on the verge of tears. Like,
yeah. Nobody's in trouble. I do simply need information about my cat.
right. But it was something as simple of that as that where I was like, I'm just trying to figure out if she's been under medicated, over medicated, like what are my next steps going forward? And it turned out it was all he got nervous because she wasn't eating because she was on a hunger strike because she was pissed. And so he locked her in the bathroom in hopes that she would eat. And of course, she didn't eat until I was at home. And of course, my anxiety was like, that's more food than should be in that bowl. Did he just put medicated food on top of medicated food in hopes that she would eat. And of course, that's not what happened. It was my anxiety at leaving my precious baby home. But again, it's that whole fear of like, and I think and I think that was another layer to it where it's like, oh, we never actually move forward in knowledge or empathy or understanding of other people and their experiences because we stay in that defensive, I didn't do anything wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. I did exactly what you asked and how you asked it. It must be so frustrating being a divorce lawyer.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bummer. Like it and I also don't think that's the way our culture has to be either, but that's I mean, I think a lot of that comes from Christianity and other forms of religion where you have good or bad people and salvation or not salvation. I think it also comes from a school system that was invented and developed to turn people into good factory workers and good little employees and not teach people how to like think critically. It teaches you to follow rules and it punishes you when you don't follow them. So it's not a surprise when people have this response of like, well, I did what you said technically,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know.
and as someone who again was an I did employ a behavior chart in my classroom where like you got to move up to nice colors and down to bad colors based on your actions throughout the day and then that decided whether or not you got to play Scrabble with us in the afternoon or not.
Oh,
Um it was my last year of teaching and they told me that my kids couldn't have a Valentine's Day party and I had bought them Valentine's Day shit anyways. And someone asked me, I thought your kids weren't allowed to have a Valentine's Day party today because they didn't earn enough thunder bucks or whatever. And I looked my teacher's aide in the eye and I was like, here's the thing. Everyone woke up today and it was Valentine's Day, whether or not they wanted it to be. You don't actually get to police holidays. Like it's Valentine's Day, they're all getting a little Debbie stack. I
what
don't
are
know.
thunderbucks?
They were just another stupid so like each classroom would have their stupid little behavior chart and then the
Uh-huh.
administration would have thunderbucks that they would hand out to you if they saw you being good factory workers in the hallway or while they were
Oh,
walking by.
wonderful.
Yeah. And that was
Yeah.
when I was like, "Oh, I can't actually work for the American education system anymore because I've reached my limit." And it all was because everyone should get to celebrate Valentine's Day if they want, I guess.
Yeah. It's it's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my one source of optimism in these unprecedented times of August 2025 is that that system that has been governing all of us, especially here in the US, and I mean, and torturing people in other parts of the world in different ways, but the system that has been training us to be good little employees and um, happy little cogs, it's been so big and so seemingly impossible to damage. But now it's been damaged kind of by itself. It sort of hurt itself in confusion. But uh, the one upside I see of the American right destroying the state and the status quo from the inside or flanking it from further right is maybe if we can prevent them from developing a solid and long term replacement that's even worse,
Mhm.
maybe that will mean there's finally room for new, more expansive and more like creative, interesting, and imaginative cultures to redevelop that humans spent 200,000 years like experimenting and being in all kinds of different ways. And then it's only in the last couple centuries that we've been so thoroughly locked into this one model of horrible society. And maybe it's collapsing and maybe school doesn't have to be like that. Maybe children don't have to walk politely in a neat line when they're going down the hall and get thunderbucks.
Yeah. I it all so America all became clear to me when I was actually watching a Broadway musical. I was
Hmm.
watching something.
Hamilton,
Oh,
the
no.
founding fathers.
No, not Hamilton. Lynn got a lot of money out of me. I bought his little book that had all of his good morning and good night tweets in it and everything because I
Oh well.
wasn't medicated for my depression yet, and his tweets were the thing that was taking the place of my Wellbutrin.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
but it was Something Rotten, which is a show that's loosely based on the Renaissance and William Shakespeare and
Yeah, I
his
saw
life.
it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No one's ever seen it. I love it. People keep telling me it's bad. I loved it.
I
Um,
saw it the same weekend I saw Hamilton, and I will
oh,
say Hamilton's a better show.
yeah.
Not ideologically, but at the level of just a Broadway show.
Yes, it is better. I just like that they made William Shakespeare into basically the Mick Jagger of the Renaissance and he got to like crowd surf and stuff. I was like, that's cute. But when the pilgrims flee the Renaissance and they have this little number about how like the Renaissance is too sexy, so they gotta go. I looked at my friend and I went, shit. And she goes, what? And I go, that's why. I go, that's why who we are as a country. We're the people who fled the Renaissance. All of these,
Yeah,
yeah,
you're told that we were founded by the people who were, facing religious persecution and pursuing a life of expansive freedom. And no, we were founded by the far right Christian cult
yeah,
who hated being in the midst of degenerate woke decadence. Like the
yeah.
people running the country are the people who were meant to run the country from the very beginning.
And then they
Uh,
got here and they murdered women for hanging out.
yeah. We were founded by pilgrims on the one hand, and then the other, at least of like the English settlers, were the hyper capitalists who founded Virginia.
Yeah.
And so it's not, neither option is great. And what we are experiencing now is the merger of those two ideologies, and it makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And the one hope that I keep holding on to is all of those memes that say this is the death rattle of capitalism and patriarchy and conservatism and conservatism. And that's why it feels so hard to be living right now. And I'm like, that's right. Because maybe in a year it'll be over and it'll be dead.
Yeah. I will say, if your listeners will forgive me for being a little preachy, though, uh, the death rattle of the American state and capitalism and all that is only good news if if we are able to prevent an even worse system from taking its place. Like, I see some people using that as, I think, justification of inaction, or they're like, "Oh, great! Like, I will put my salvation hopes for society on this idea. It will collapse. Things will be fine." And unfortunately, no. It's not just collapsing, it's being dismantled and actively replaced by people who are worse. And that does mean we all have to play active defense. Uh, we can't just sit around and hope.
You're accidentally touching on one of my other niche interests, which is the Romanovs. And I
Mm.
always like to remind people that Russia never recovered from the Romanov assassination because then other people came in and made it worse.
Yeah, I mean, worse for some people, and admittedly better for some other people, but like not good all around.
Not good all around. Yeah. Like,
Um, oh, I see. You've fallen for the CIA's propaganda.
yeah.
Everything I've read about the Soviet Union is that it was a perfect paradise. People
Yeah.
happily waited in bread lines for 17 hours.
Yeah. I I don't know whose side of the Cold War that I'm on. Uh,
Hmm.
but I'm
I'm
I don't
on
know.
I'm on neither side. I consider myself an anarchist, and so I don't think any centralized state solutions are ever going to be the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why, to me, the idea of playing defense here is like, no, 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 just like let them destroy America, just prevent them from building anything else up, and let communities like experiment and try things. Uh, yeah.
Because, well, and because everyone's not actually thinking critically about all of this dystopian novels we were fed when we were teens. They did
Yeah,
destroy America, and then they came up with the Hunger Games. Like, that's
right.
what happened.
Yeah, there's
Like,
still the capital.
yeah, they came up with the Capitol.
Yeah,
Um, and we've seen the prequel now to the Hunger Games. It wasn't fun, and that's what we would be living.
yeah. And there's like versions of that I'd be okay with, like Billionaire Hunger Games. I've long been pitching.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I I'm a big I'm a big David Graeber stan, who's an anarchist anthropologist. If y'all haven't read him, highly recommend The Democracy Project for right now and The Dawn of Everything if you just want some inspiration about it's like a rethinking of human Neolithic history and descriptions of all of these fascinating ways human societies were organized that have nothing to do with our current understanding of the trajectory of like hunter gatherer to farmer to state to empire to European capitalism to America. Um, but he always says like, people like to accuse me of like they get mad at me because I can't tell them what an anarchist or like what a leftist replacement of the status quo would look like. But I don't think it's possible for us to know yet. Like we are all the people living in it and inundated with it. And it's all the world has been allowed to know for so long now. And I think our job is to clear the way for the human imagination again, because it used to be our most powerful asset. And people used to organize their societies in a million different ways,
Huh.
ways that feel insane. And then you realize they only feel insane from the perspective of our insane society.
Yep.
And yeah, our job isn't to know what's next. Our job is to open up space for the people after us to start imagining again. And I love that. I'm trying to live by that because, yeah, I don't fucking know. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have answers, but no one has answers. If someone promises you answers, that's a cult leader and they're lying or they want your money.
Yeah. Well, I think actually what you just did was our closing out ceremony where you gave us a lesson.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's to maybe open ourselves up to more imagination because it was what actually made us successful. Um,
Yes.
and you kind of manifested a little bit, even though you told me that you might not be good at that.
I don't believe in manifesting. I'm extremely non-spiritual. I do believe in hoping.
Yeah,
I just don't think my hope has causal impact on the world. So
that's
whatever you
fine.
think manifesting is, if you think it's just hoping for something, then yes,
Hmm.
I'm manifesting.
Can I tell you the dirty secret of the manifestation clause for my
Yeah,
podcast?
sure,
Okay.
yeah.
So the podcast was supposed to just be my avenue to practicing stand up comedy about my exes and the way that men had treated me.
Hmm.
But I was very cognizant about the fact that men are so mean on the internet. And we didn't even talk about all of the cool ways that you battle that because I've
Oh,
been watching
yeah.
them and they crack me up.
Oh, thank you.
So I will just instead move people onto your socials. Or you could always come back and do a trolls only episode because you're invited back. That's the caveat of,
Anytime.
yeah, we're
Yeah,
friends now. In fact, contractually because of the friendship bracelet I gave you.
that is true.
Yeah. So that's why it's tolerated before. Because I was like, ah, they won't get me saying hate. Not those mean trolls on the internet. And then I was like, and we'll end it in a positive note and we'll wish well for these idiots.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm. And then again, when the trolls try to dox me, I can be like, but I gave good energy back. I
Yeah.
forgave and I moved on in good faith. But literally, sometimes my manifestation is usually like if I can't think of one, and I don't want to just give like the miscongeniality world peace answer, I just say something like, I really hope that like someone talked really nicely to Amanda Bynes today. Like, and I just like call out someone that I know that's in need.
Yeah. Okay. I can do one manifest. I have a
Okay.
manifest.
All right.
Yeah. Um, I look, there's so many people committing acts of horrendous nihilist terrorism out there in the world. And I'm manifesting that just one of them, instead of targeting teenagers and teachers, would just assassinate Elon Musk.
Just the one.
We only need one of them to do it.
And I'm not editing that out. I'll get on the list. Like
This
what
is this is a spiritual practice of
this in
manifestation. I'm
fact
not telling anyone to do it.
they cannot the separation of church and state says that we're and freedom of speech says that we're allowed to say this and it's
Yeah.
spiritual.
And actually, just in case, depending on like what laws have been passed in the next few days, that's not a manifestation technically. That's my prayer to the Lord, the Heavenly Father, and that's between me and Jesus.
Okay. And you're gonna be and you're gonna come between me and Jesus. Jesus and I share a birthday. You want to go there? Like,
Yeah. So, I mean, look, you can tell me that praying to Jesus is wrong, I guess.
yeah. Also, does it make this more scary when I tell you that I record ahead of time, so this isn't coming out for months?
Um, oh God, yeah, I guess I should change my lesson then. So, hi, people months from now. I'm so sorry about everything that's happened in the last few months. Um, yeah, I assume the internet is down and that you're listening to this on a like a thumb drive being passed around. Um, I'm gonna give you a list of first aid resources. So first, if someone is bleeding out, if someone is bleeding out, it is okay to tourniquet them. I know for a while you were told that was bad and that they'd lose their limb, but it's actually okay. More research has shown that tourniquets are more safe than we realize. Plus, if it's a matter of life and death, obviously, don't even doubt it. You do need to know how to do it correctly, though. Uh, I mean, I don't know. I should. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to download a book of first aid and I'm going to start reading it out loud right now until you stop me, Natalie.
Okay. I mean,
I'm going to do
honestly,
it. Yeah.
I haven't taken a first aid class in a while, and I have small nephews. maybe,
Hmm.
maybe I should know a thing or two. I walked
Okay.
into my sister's car, and my foot was actively bleeding, and I had no idea.
Introduction. National first aid systems in most of the world came out of the medical corps of popular and liberation movements of the 50s and 60s. In the United States, street medics were operating and training in Mississippi and New York City at least 4 years before the first statewide EMS programs were established in Maryland. What are street medics?
Now,
Street medics
Sarah,
are, yeah.
is this an online publication?
Oh, yeah, this is actually, this is this is a little first aid guide. It's 90 pages of first aid for street medics published by the Chicago Action Medical Group.
Well, thanks for
So,
going local for me.
yeah.
I'll link it in the show notes so you don't have to do
Okay.
unpaid voice
Oh,
work.
you don't want me to read it out loud?
I just
Okay.
I feel like you should be paid for your craft, and I don't have the budget for that.
Totally fair. Um, yeah, you let me go longer than I thought you would, but
That's okay. I love a bit. It's part of
I
the
do
problem.
too.
I love a
Um,
bit. Um,
I'm so scared to know what the world you're listening to this in is. But hey,
you
you're
know,
still listening to this.
yeah, honestly, and honestly, I hope I am just being not. I hope, but wouldn't that be hilarious if we're one of the pieces of media being passed along like the Dead Sea Scrolls?
Yeah, this is the one random
This is the
scrap.
one. I
Yeah,
am whatever they base their entire future on in that show on HBO Max. Shit, I fifth station, the 11th station. I read the whole ass book and now I can't remember the name of the show even though I really liked it.
I
But
don't know.
it was all based on a comic book. Like people just
Cool.
passed around the same comic book and people built cults around its ideology and everything.
Yeah, I mean, you say that, but we are doing that now.
We are.
Um, that is exactly how our government is being operated at the moment.
I just wish Chris Evans would dress up as Captain America, show up at the White House, and go, as Captain America, I want you to stop. Because I feel like that would trick them.
Yeah, that's true. I more meant that like the Gospels are sort of a compilation of a very niche comic fandom. So,
Yes. Sarah, this was great.
Yeah.
And I really did
Thanks.
mean it when I said you can come back whenever you want. And unfortunately, a gift that I impart on you is my undying friendship. So I will DM you when
Mhm.
I think of you.
And you should. Thank you so much. I would love to come back. This was
Yeah.
so fun.
Thank you so much. Could you make sure that all of my listeners know where they can follow you so they can watch you be mean to internet trolls?
Yeah, best place for that specifically would be Instagram at Sarah Rose Caplan. Sarah with no H, Rose like the flower, and Kaplan with a C. And I, I'm not always just trying to be mean to internet
No,
trolls.
it's actually
Sometimes I try
so
to be nice to
smart.
them.
I'm
But
actually being dumb about it. Like, you've elevated the knowledge base of this podcast by like 5 times.
uh thank you. Yeah, no, I'm pretty particular about which trolls I respond to. But I do like responding to them. My mom's always like, "Why do you keep reading these comments?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It's a form of self-harm that I enjoy, I guess." But yeah, you can find me there. You can find me on YouTube also at Sarah Rose Kaplan, where I do a weekly news processing podcast with my friend Kat, who is a trans woman and public defender. We met in law school. I dropped out and she graduated. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
All right. Well, tolerators, you know where to find us. It's Men I've Tolerated Pod on Instagram, Natalie K124. If you want to see personal photos from my Instagram or TikTok, and to all the men I've tolerated before on YouTube, if you want to check out the movie reviews under Still Comfy. And as always, I invite you to type in my name or to all the men I've tolerated before on any social media platform you're checking out in case I forgot one. And remember, tolerators, you don't have to smile through anything you're tolerating, including just knowing that someone's having a fear response and wanting to fight their fear response, but also knowing that you're so exhausted by fighting their fear response that nothing is actually getting accomplished. Smiles are for joy.